Your Steve Jones Show podcast is loading now. The Steve Jones Show podcast is sponsored by Sunbury Motors, North 4th Street in Sunbury, and Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15 in Hummel's Wharf. Sports talk where your voice counts. This is the Steve Jones Show on News Radio 1070 WKOK. Now from the Sunbury Motors studio, here's Steve Jones.
All right, Sunbury Motors, 4th Street in Sunbury. Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15, Hummel's Wharf, and online at sunburymotors.com. Ford, Kia, Hyundai, the best in new inventory. Great pre-owned inventory with the Sunbury Motors guarantee. So important. And not only that, but a fabulous service department that makes this one-stop vehicle shopping. Because they'll take care of the routine, they'll take care of inspections, they're great at both. Diagnostics, they handle it all at Sunbury Motors, 4th Street in Sunbury. Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15, Hummel's Wharf, and online at sunburymotors.com. So I guess they renewed the Suits Shikellamy contract, but for some odd reason, Shikellamy did not want to put out a press release. What does that mean?
F-O-U-L-E-D, that spells founder.
It also spells disaster. All right. Just kidding. All right. Our play-by-play call of the day. Sixers had a shot late, but Giannis, a former MVP, takes care of what might be the future MVP.
In the heart. Embiid clears some space for him. James, step back three. Off the mark. Embiid, the rebound. Blocked near the cup.
Side position. Ooh, I don't know. That looked like a clean block from that angle. Ooh.
Yep.
Antetokounmpo getting to it before the backboard touches it.
Yep, and that is Kate Scott and Ala Abdelnaby with the call on NBC Sports Philly last night. They did their usual great job. Kate's done a great job for the Sixers this year. Really has. All right, that's our play-by-play call today. I know I said that it was great to have champions on board, and, of course, we brought that up. And, of course, the suit said, well, yeah, I've been on. Like, it's some of the reactions are a bit depressing, don't you think?
No, senor! No, senor! No, senor!
My thought, I didn't want to say it out loud. Instead, we're going to go with 197-pound national champion Max Dean. Max, welcome. Great to have you with us on the show.
Oh, yeah, thank you. Appreciate you guys and your support, and excited to be on the show.
You learn something at every level. So I want to take it two parts. What did you learn at Cornell as a wrestler that no matter what is a basis of what you do today? And then I'll follow it up with what you picked up at Penn State. So we'll start. What is the foundation that was laid there that is still important to what you have today?
Well, I spent a lot of time there, 5 years. So to try and go through everything that I learned while I was there would be probably an impossible task. Cornell is a huge part of who I am as a wrestler and a person. Obviously I can't deny that because there's a lot of great people there, and they were really good to me. I spent a lot of time with my brother there training. Yeah. In terms of skills, a lot of my wrestling and my foundation was built there. Did a lot of hard wrestling and hard training there. So, that sticks with you, just getting bigger and more physical. But, just ultimately kind of came to the point where it was time for me to move on. And, I was fortunate enough that Penn State was an option for me because it's, pretty undeniably the best place to go if you want to reach your wrestling goals. And, since I've been here, I think even more so than just the wrestling knowledge, which speaks for itself, but just life perspective and making decisions about the type of person I want to be and the way I want to treat people. And, not that I was a bad person before or anything like that, but just being a little bit more committed to it and a little more clear about it. And I would just say mostly I feel like my values have grown at Penn State.
That's called maturity. All right. So let's get into all that bad stuff. No, I'm just kidding. Stay away.
No,
I'm kidding. It's a joke. It was an easy, quick, easy talk show host joke. I want to ask you about your brother, because when this was over with in Detroit, that moment you had with him, what ran through your mind as you hugged him and what he has meant to who you are today?
I was just thinking, man, we did it. A lot. We did it. I mean, that's kind of always, and that's not just talking about Gabe and I. Obviously, he's somebody in my wrestling career I've always looked up to and wanted to be like, and we've shared a lot of cool moments before. Sorry, I just had somebody walk into our locker room being loud. But we've shared a lot of cool moments, and just we hadn't shared that one yet. Which I think for a lot of people, being an NCAA champion is, that's like the pinnacle of their wrestling goals. I know that's been the case for me. So just getting to finally get that done and have him there for it. And, you kind of feel like a little kid again. I remember being in my dad's, crappy van with Gabe. I was probably 7 years old, and we're driving around to different tournaments. And it's like things you don't really think about a lot, and then all of a sudden you feel like that little kid again that just wanted it for so long, and now you're finally like here. I feel like I'm maybe stumbling a little bit, but it's just a cool moment to share, with him and all the other people that have supported me. I mean, there's no worse feeling in the world than having everybody in your life just give you everything they've got to give in support of you and your goals, and then feeling like you let them down. Which, I've been at that point in my career before, where I made it all the way to the NCAA finals. And I just remember being like, man, I just let everybody down. And that's not the way that they view me. That's something I put on myself.
Sure. Yeah.
But just to give my family and my coaches and my training partners and some of my really close friends and all these people that have stuck by me through a couple of really tough years, just to give them something to be excited about and a moment of satisfaction, it just feels really good.
Well, what's interesting, and I've talked to many people over the years, all the people I've talked to, and the great ones always have that self-imposed pressure on themselves. Like people talk about pressure from the outside. The pressure internally, I always felt, was greater from somebody than it was from the outside, and it seems like that's with you. It's like to you, it's that desire to be the best you can be, but it's an internal pressure.
Yeah. No, it definitely comes from within. I don't think that there's anybody that's probably ever been externally motivated into being, an NCAA champion or reaching high levels in this sport, because it's really tough. So you got to want it for yourself. It's just some of the standards you have for yourself and the expectations. And for me, those came really early in my career. Because my brother had been so good and my dad had been so good. Right. I remember being a gray shirt in college who stunk. I probably wasn't even ready to be an NCAA qualifier yet when I first got to college. I wasn't a blue chip recruit or anything like that, but my expectations were already, NCAA champion or All-American at least. And that's tough because you're going to lose the guys that aren't on that level, and it's hard to keep your perspective and to have positive experiences when you set your expectations that high. So that's something I've kind of always dealt with throughout my career. But you mature and you grow and you just keep working, and I definitely think it's good to not feel overly satisfied. Even now I don't really feel that satisfied.
Right.
But it's a lot of pressure to deal with. But if you don't have expectations for yourself, then you don't have goals. So
yeah, exactly. Max, it's interesting. Is you're in the lineup, you're doing well. I was at Carver Hawkeye. It had to be, I think it was 6 days before you guys went in there, because I was there to do the Penn State Iowa basketball game. And you name the usher, they're all coming up, or the fan. I can't wait for Friday night. Okay. Yeah, right? So, obviously. You wrestled Warner. All right. And Warner's number 3, you're number 2 at the time. You got 8 points in the third period. What did that matchup just do for your confidence? Did it set the table for what we saw the rest of the way?
I don't know if I would say that's the case. It's always nice to get a big win and to beat a great competitor. And, respect to Jacob Warner. He's obviously a good wrestler. So, felt good to come away with the win that night. But I guess, yes, I mean, probably added to my confidence a little bit that I can go 7 minutes or longer, without stopping. And, I'm going to wrestle the whole time and be that type of competitor. But, I don't really think a lot about who I'm wrestling or what they're doing or, can I beat this guy? Will this guy beat that guy? That's not the train of thought that I ever have. I'm just focused on myself and going out and wrestling hard for 7 minutes. So, and it feels good when that works. But, that was a really fun duel. We had a great team win, and it was cool to be a part of. Great energy in there. Nice to have an undefeated duel season as a team, and that was the one we really needed to get that done.
Sure. Yeah.
But in terms of, I didn't dwell on that at all. You win a match, the sun comes up the next morning, and you got more work to do. So it's kind of where I keep my mindset at. And
same story after winning a national championship. How quickly did you get back in the room?
I took a week off. My coaches made me.
You slacker.
Yeah. Well, it's just important to let your body heal and get a little rest. And I will say, by the end of the week, I was really bored. I was ready. I was really excited to get back on the mat. Was missing it a lot, and I'm just super grateful that I have another year of college wrestling because I couldn't imagine being done right now. That would really bum me out.
So, what do you want to work on during this quote off season when because I always talk about, whether it's football, basketball, wrestling, you can make your game in the off season. So what do you want to do, and what do you want to do, and do you want to do any freestyle during the course of the off season?
Well, I'll definitely be training freestyle with, our RTC. We've got a lot of great guys here, and we have guys that are going to win world titles this summer. So, I'm excited to be a part of that, and I'll help them however they need. And obviously I gain from that too. In terms of competing this spring or summer, I haven't really made any final decisions yet. I'm still working through that with my coaches and thinking about what's best for me. So I couldn't commit to anything yet. But, what I want to work on is I definitely want to attack a lot more. That was a big thing coming off of the tournament, and now having kind of that pressure off of winning your first NCAA title. Now I'm just like, all right, I want to do that again, but I want to do it with a lot more style. So, turning guys on top and, shooting a lot more on my feet, which I know I can do. So I'm excited to do that. And in terms of anything a little more specific than that, I don't really want to get into game plan or what I'm working on. But definitely, I would say the main thing would be going out and scoring more points.
Does the freestyle part of it help your footwork?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, freestyle and folk style, they're similar in some ways, but they're also very different. Freestyle, you got to be a little bit more calculated, have a little bit more control over what you're doing. You can't just roll across your back or do crazy stuff. So, no, I think it helps, especially the way that you're moving your feet is really important. And, freestyle wrestling's mostly neutral. So, wanting to go out and get after some attacks and shoot and score, it's good to focus there.
Well, remember all those miles in that, quote, crappy van? As your dad was taking your brother around? It eventually paid off for you, too. Congratulations on a great season. And I know what's really cool about you is you're not satisfied. You want more. And I think that's what makes you special. Congratulations.
Well, hey, thank you very much. Like I said, I really appreciate you guys' support. And, it's nice to be able to come on the show and talk with you. Look forward to doing it again sometime.
Max, I appreciate that very much. Thank you.
Yep.
When car repairs get difficult.
Well, I just don't know.
Me neither.
We get good. Sunbury Motors. More than quality new and used cars, Sunbury Motors specializes in complicated auto repair diagnosis. They can handle intricate repairs and even complete auto body with service open Monday through Friday, 7 till 4. And Sunbury Motors has made simple repairs easy. Maintaining your vehicle is necessary. Finding the time to do it is difficult. Welcome to Sunbury Motors Quick Lane. Open 7 till 4, Monday through Friday. Just walk in or call ahead. Relax in their remodeled waiting room with Wi-Fi, beverages, and snacks. While Sunbury Motors factory trained techs take care of your oil change, tire alignments, brakes, and inspections. Quick Lane, 6:30 to 6, Monday through Friday. Saturday, 6:30 till 2. Sunbury Motors, Ford and Hyundai, North 4th Street, Sunbury. And Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15 in Hummel's Wharf. We take the out of auto repair.
Great to have Max Dean in the show. We thank Max for taking the time out to join us today. And just part of the great lineage of champions at Penn State. 5 for 5 in the finals this year, another team championship. So, phenomenal. Just great. So, yeah. And Matt wanted to have some big timers on the show. And
yeah, and you got it done.
When Alex Kozora wasn't available, we went this route.
He would say the same thing.
I did that for you. There you go. All right. So the Detroit Lions are considering trading the number 2 overall pick. Okay. Now as if they couldn't use it. They could use a lot. Joel Embiid rips Sixers game plan after late collapse versus Bucks. Says next time, match up my minutes with Giannis. Last I checked, it was Giannis that blocked Embiid on the floor at the end, so they were matched up there. Giannis also had 40 last night. His problem is that Embiid says when he went to the bench, he said they did not do a good enough job at the end of the third quarter, beginning of the fourth. Their best player scored 17 points in a row. I don't think we did what we had to. They made that run, and they cut the lead and gained momentum, and it carried over. Said it didn't help that he was on the bench the entire time during Giannis's run. No offense, he's not a 48-minute player. That is one of his problems. But
however, Doc has had plenty, and I mean plenty, of rotational issues where he literally would take all the ones out, then put the twos in, and that would allow an opponent to come back, make a game of it when they were up big, and then starters have to come out and put out the fire. He's been a little bit better with that this year, but it's still not great. But also, too, this is also a talent issue, and this is something that I knew the Sixers really didn't address in the trade deadline because, of course, they got Harden, is the depth still not there, especially behind Embiid. And you lost that big time when you had to trade away Andre Drummond.
Well, you wanted Harden. I mean, you wanted Harden.
I mean, you had to do what you had to do, but so it's there.
You wanted Harden. I'm just telling you.
I know.
Yeah, this is Seth Curry. Who was the key guy when the Nets won? Oh, Seth Curry, the other guy they traded away. All right.
I wanted to keep Seth Curry, but you got to do what you got to do.
You got to give something to get something because the primary guy they traded isn't playing.
Yep.
The NFL is going to allow media back in the locker rooms this season. So the NFL media policy getting back to normal. So good news there. Because, I mean, the media, they are the liaison with the fans. I mean, you get in the locker room and you got all sorts of options in terms of who to talk to. Now, it's not easy being in there as opposed to bringing them out in the media room, but the bottom line is you can't have, guys aren't hanging in the training room waiting, so hopefully everything will go along well here in the next few weeks to few months, that they don't have to back off on that policy. How about that? That's what I'm hoping. And so far we've been hanging in there. Good. I know there's the subvariant out there that people have talked about. But, you just do the best you can, hang in with it, and then we'll see. So locker rooms will be open to the media in 2022. And also it helps. I mean, you need baseball announcers need access around the batting cage, too. Hopefully Major League Baseball will take this cue. Major League Baseball needs badly to have the media back in the clubhouse because they need to get the good stories out there. And the good stories, you're not going to get the good stories by... No offense, by doing it on Zoom. You know how I feel about Zoom. To me, Zoom is a last resort. Nothing beats in-person one-to-one. And, of course, there's a story I'm going to repeat to start the next half hour, but it's a story that's really important for anybody who does anything in life and wants to accomplish something. It's a very simple story as well.
Taking your calls at 800-795-9565. This is The Steve Jones Show on News Radio 1070 WKOK. Now, from the Sunbury Motors Studio, here's Steve Jones.
All right, Sunbury Motors, 4th Street in Sunbury. Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15 Hummels Wharf, online at sunburymotors.com. For Kia Hyundai, best in new inventory. Great pre-owned inventory with the all-important Sunbury Motors guarantee. A fabulous service department. Whether it happens to be inspections, routine, diagnostics, whatever, it is one-stop vehicle shopping. It is all at Sunbury Motors. 4th Street in Sunbury, Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15 Hummels Wharf, and online at sunburymotors.com. James Franklin will meet with the media after practice today. I think the media's in right now watching. They usually watch maybe 2 periods of practice, maybe 3. And we'll see some stories about that and what James had to say, because at this point, they'll get, by their time they're done today, that'll be practice 5. That means they're 1/3 of the way through spring practice. All right, the quick story, and I've told this story before. As you know, my good friend, great friend, Dick Girardi, 8 years ago in Dallas, was inducted into the U.S. Basketball Writers Association Hall of Fame. So naturally, hey, look, if this is going to happen to him, I'm going to figure out a way to get there. So I flew down to Dallas for it. And Dick, he gave a great speech, just a great speech. But there was another inductee named George Lapidus, and George Lapidus was with, I want to say the Memphis Commercial Appeal, maybe? No, it was the Memphis Statement Commercial Appeal. I think it was with the Commercial Appeal. Because he obviously was good friends with Mike DeCourcy. And he had been covering the city beat down there. So he had developed a really good rapport with the mayor. He developed a really good rapport with the Memphis City Council. And he felt good about his job. And one day the paper's editor calls him in. He says, hey, George, we need to switch over to sports. And he said, hey, look, I really like where I am now. I like dealing with the council. I like dealing with the mayor. And I guess the story goes he handed George a piece of paper. On the piece of paper had a number on it. George looked at the number and said, okay, what day do I start on sports? So now he has to cover sports. The first major event he goes to cover is the Masters at Augusta National. He goes to the Masters at Augusta National, and like anybody who's there the first time, he's trying to feel his way around the property, feel his way around the media tent, press conferences, everything. He spots the legendary writer Red Smith from the New York Times. He decides, hey, here's a golden opportunity to learn something. And he walks up to Red Smith. Mr. Smith, my name is George Lapidus from Memphis. This is the first time I'm covering the Masters. Can you give me any words of advice? Red Smith looked at him and said, I'll give you 2 words. Be there. Be there. That is important advice for a media person. It's an important piece of advice, slice of advice for anybody in any walk of life, in any business. You have to be there. Being on Zoom is sort of being there. Being in the locker room to do interviews, you're there. You can cover it. You can give your reader or listener or viewer a better story than being on Zoom with somebody. We need to transition back to being there. And there are a lot of reporters who want to be there. There are many people that have a negative view of media, which I understand. The media has not helped itself. So I understand. Too much has been done on Zoom. And I think that's one of the primary problems we have right now. Newsrooms have cut back over time. How often do you watch a report and it'll be a story about something that happened in, let's pick place, Paris, and the reporter's giving the report from London? Well, is that reporter there? They weren't there. And they could have given that story to the anchor in the newsroom, and he or she could have done the story there. That's not being there. Being there is being there in the thick of it. Being there is being able to pick up on the stories. Being there is able to use your own instincts as to what is important and what's not important. And I know people will say, well, I'm relating this to the NFL allowing media back in. That's being there. I mean, Matt can tell you all the events he's now at, what a difference it makes, quote, just being there.
Always.
One of the great advantages I have in my career, and it's a great advantage, every basketball coach, starting with Dick Harder, has said, hey, you need to go to practice. Every football coach I've been around since, including Joe Paterno, I mean, Joe is the one that said to me, Steve, you need to go to practice. It'll give you a real feel for what's actually going on. It'll really help the presentation of the broadcast. Wow. And it does. I give answers on this show that are probably different than most answers that you hear on a wide variety of topics because I'm at practices. I've been in team meetings. I've been in film sessions. I think Matt knows more than anybody. Matt, you probably get different answers out of me than you do most people, only because I have a different life experience.
Definitely.
Except for Alex Kozora.
But he would agree.
That he gives different answers? Yeah. That's. But you get different answers because of the different life experience, being around it all the time. When I sit there, let me give you a simple one. Here's a simple one. When I talk about players being on their own clock, that sometimes you get a perspective like, why isn't this, pick one, 4 or 5 star guy? I don't understand why he's not playing. It's got to be the coaching and the whole thing. And, as the person that's standing there, I can see why or why not they aren't. And then all of a sudden you'll watch something kick in. I was telling my class the story today about the late Adam Gress. Adam Gress was a great guy, mountain of a man. I'll be honest, the first 3.5 years he was here, he just could get no traction. He was a big kid. Footwork wasn't that great. Kept working, but I just didn't see it. Then near the end of his 4th year, he started playing a little bit, and you could see why. And then for his 5th year, for whatever reason, all the tumblers clicked and the safe opened. It was great to see. It was great to watch. It was great to watch that happen. All right, Dick in Milton. Dick, you were there. I want to know, what was your experience in Detroit like before we get to your question? You need to answer my question.
What, are you talking to me, Steve?
Yep, I sure am. I said, what was your experience
I wasn't sure
like
what
in
just
Detroit?
started there. Well, I'll tell you what, that's the nicest arena that I've ever been in.
Yeah, it's got everything.
The Little Caesars, it's really special. I don't know any way I can put it, because I've been to St. Louis a couple of times, Pittsburgh, Cleveland, Oklahoma City. I don't know how old this building is, but it's beautiful. It's really nice in there. And I'm going to use the word, it's user-friendly.
I want to say maybe it's in its 3rd year.
Well, I don't know. It's really nice.
I think it's in its 3rd year of existence.
Well, one of the things about doing these, and you know this a lot better than I do, getting around, but, they can look at other buildings and make improvements. Let's say you go to St. Louis, which is an older building, or you go somewhere else, and they can look and see what they could do better when they build a new one. And that's what they do. They do that thing with baseball parks, I guess. Sometimes they just improve on them. But it's beautiful, and the wrestling was excellent. The Penn State wrestling, and I wanted to thank you for putting Max. I went to the social, the mixer afterwards, and it didn't last long. It lasted a long time. It didn't last long for the coach, because it really got running late. But the wrestlers got up to speak, and Max easily was I'll just put it, he was the best speaker to get up there for the new kid on the block, so to speak, with those guys.
I think that's great, and I tried to outline in a way his path. His path has not been the easiest to get here, and I think because of that, it's made him. Sometimes something like that happens, and you're better for it.
Yeah, well, he was excellent. They all get up and speak. I mean, everybody has a different level of competency when they get up to speak in front of a group of people. Obviously, that's, Sandy Barber spoke, and Byerly was, he was a ceremonial. It was neat. It really was. It's always good to go to those things. You see a lot of older people you don't get to see in the arena because they're so spread out, But it was excellent. I wasn't real wild about we stayed at the Marriott, and I'm not going to criticize a hotel, but boy, they've really changed a lot over the years. And the worst thing is, because of the pandemic, they don't give you a lot of services anymore. They charge you, but they don't clean rooms. They don't make beds, I guess, unless you beg them to. They'll give you towels, and that's been that way the last 2 places I've been to because of the pandemic. They don't have a lot of help, I'll put it to you. They just don't have a lot of help. I don't know what it's like when you guys go on the road.
Multiply that times how many times I go on the road.
Well, you go a lot. I mean, I don't know how many times you stay overnight. I know you fly to places, and sometimes you probably leave almost immediately, but I'm sure you stay sometimes. Like in Indianapolis, I'm sure you didn't. You stayed at a hotel for an extended piece.
We always go overnight because we always go in the night before.
Yeah, I figured that, but as I said, you can probably attest to the fact that the hotel services have changed over the last, the last 2 years, a lot.
Oh yes, oh my goodness, and
I don't know if it'll ever go back to normal.
There's still, for example, a little hesitancy about what to do about like meals or breakfasts or things like that. There's still some hesitancy there.
Yeah. And I'm not. No, that's not the reason I go to a damn wrestling tournament or event. for the hotel because you don't spend that much time there. You spend some time there. But I've seen the changes in the last 11 years of going to Nationals or 10 years. It's just changed a lot. And so next year it's in Tulsa. I've never been to Tulsa, Oklahoma City. I don't know how it's going to be out there if I go. We'll see.
I've been to Oklahoma City. I've been to Norman, but I've never been to Tulsa. But I'm glad you're going to go. I think that's great.
Well, I'm going to get tickets. Because I get my tickets through Bucknell. They always take care of me. And I told my brother and them, listen, if I don't even go at my age, I will make sure they get tickets. As long as Bucknell gets me tickets, they'll get there.
Right.
That's
great.
And but it was excellent. And the Penn State crowd was, it's probably the most quiet Penn State crowd I've ever heard at an event like that. Maybe it's the way they were spaced in the arena too. It could have been spaced out differently than normal, and there wasn't big contingents at one block. So, but they were relatively quiet. They were confident quiet. I'll put it to you. Confident quiet. But Penn State was excellent. And with 3 guys coming back next year, and maybe Bravo Young comes back to use his COVID year. It was funny when he got up to speak. Everybody was kind of like egging him on about what's he going to do, and the last thing he put his one finger up. He says, "I'll let you know."
Yeah.
So I don't know if he's coming back or not, but I mean they'll find something. They'll be okay without him. They'll be a lot better with him. They'll be good without him. They're excellent. It's a program that's beyond compare in college sports. I just put it. I don't think there's anything comparable right now anywhere.
No, and that's what I think I said on the Monday after they'd won. That when Russ Rose was in that process of winning 4 straight and winning 7 in a span of 15 years, I said they're not only the best women's volleyball program in the country, they're the best program in the country, period. Now, Penn State Wrestling is not just the best wrestling program in the country. Penn State Wrestling is the best program in the country, period, regardless of sport.
Well, here's an example. You'll know this. I won't hold you. You'll know this a lot better than I do. Do you think that, obviously he retires and they have the portal, and right away I see at least 2, maybe 3 of Penn State's girls volleyball players go into the portal. I mean, and they're very good, I'm assuming. But then 2 or 3 come in. Do you think if he had stayed there, those kids would have left? I guess that's my point.
I think yes. I think that's I think yes. It's just everything's on an individual basis now, Dick. I think that they knew that I think Russ knew those players are going to the portal ahead of time.
Well, we've talked this before. I detest the portal. I think it's just will it ruin college sports? Well, it doesn't help it. It doesn't help. It doesn't do anything for college sports that I've ever seen. I don't think it benefits. It might benefit the athlete, but it doesn't benefit the teams recruiting, the coaches, the programs as a whole. I don't see it.
Well, it doesn't enamor the fans. All this stuff, once it's out, it's very difficult to rein it in. The NCAA has done a very poor job of regulating and putting forward rules that make sense. Name, image, and likeness is one. Who cares if you get sued? Everybody sues you anyway. Just add it to the list. I mean, put out some rules. Don't go to Congress and say, bail us out because all the state laws are different. You're okay. You're an entity. You have 358 schools in Division I under your umbrella. Put forward some rules and go from there. And if somebody wants to sue, let them.
Well, the Penn State football team doesn't, even though guys will jump into the portal, you don't notice it as much with 85, 90 players and good players. Basketball, you noticed it right away. Obviously, we got some kids that came in, or you got some students that came in, but they lost some. If John Harrow, I guess, went into the portal and then changed his mind, if he had disappeared and gone, they would have been completely different.
It would have been a very difficult season without John Harrow.
They would have been as good as they were, and they were very. They ended up as a very good basketball team.
Yeah, I mean, you do well in some areas. For example, Jalen Pickett comes in. He did a really good job. He's a good player, a big plus. John Harris staying a big plus. Losing Brockington, Wheeler, Jones, tough losses. But not every, I think Greg Lee, if he'd been healthy, really could have helped because when he played, he did help. The other guys were just okay. the way they played this year. The other 3 transfers in. So the portal's not perfect, and you've got to be really good and selective about which players you go after in the portal. It is all part of a strategy. And again, the fans not crazy about it. Okay, the name, image, and likeness thing, but guess what? They're reality. So, I mean, the coaches in particular have to somehow make it work.
It's got to be a tough job. They recruit a kid. They put a lot of time and effort to bring whatever player A into their program because they need him at that position. He stays 1 year and bolts. And they lose something there. My last thing I'm going to ask are, the Final Four. As much as I'd like to see Villanova win because of Jay Wright and his connection there at the university downtown here, but that losing their second best ball player, best defensive player is not going to help them. I don't know how they replace him for 2 games.
Yes. Yeah, especially considering, Dick, they're essentially a 6-person team the way they play.
Yeah, they don't play a lot. He never goes real deep at this level anyhow, and I don't know. I don't know what happens there. I wouldn't give him very good odds to win it now.
It'll all be about pace Saturday evening at 6. Villanova does not play at a hot pace. Kansas wants to. Normally the team that doesn't play at a hot pace does dictate the pace. But if you're going to play at a slower pace, okay, you're going to have to, or a more deliberate pace, you're going to have to hit shots. And that's what it comes down to in that game. That's and slowing the game down is their best chance to win anyway against Kansas.
Well, as I say, basketball was interesting. St. Peter's made the games interesting. They shocked a lot of basketball teams out there this year, and they played very well. They played very well. They just didn't have enough guns to go full bore against that level of talent. They got outsized. They got out muscled and outsized inside, especially. And they get a guy in foul trouble. They're in trouble where other teams have a backup kid that comes in and can play a lot better than their backups. So
most of those teams outside of Villanova are like Noah's Ark. They got 2 of everything.
that's just it. Well, anyhow, it's nice talking to you. Wrestling was wonderful. I expect a repeat for Penn State next year. I don't. Yep. Everybody's going after him, and I don't know how he does it. But Cale really at the end of the season, he's easily the best team, the best coach in America in any one sport.
And by the way,
I mean, it's not just him; his staff.
Yeah. And by the way,
when the guys run off the mat, and you ever watch them when they run off the mat, they're talking to Casey Cunningham. Usually, I'm not telling you Cale's not involved in the conversation, but he's got wonderful staff there.
Oh, and it makes all the difference in the world.
They're good. They're darn good. I'm not take anything away from them. So, are you doing Spikes baseball this year? Do they have a team?
Yes. Yep. And I'll be doing their games. Yep. I'm looking forward to it. They'll be and Williamsport will be back as well.
Well, with any luck, they'll both be as good as the Orioles. It won't take a lot.
They've got the old Orioles manager, the Spikes do, Dave Tremblay.
Really? Yeah.
He's their manager. So I'm going to, give me a list of questions, Dick. I'll ask him for you.
Well, it's the only team I've ever seen go into the last week of the right before spring training and didn't have a catcher on their roster. Because I kept looking every day. They had a 40-man roster with no catchers, and they signed a guy right at the end, like a 37-year-old catcher. And they have one of the best minor league baseball players. The Rochman is really good. He's the face of the team, so they speak. Then he's hurt, right? He's injured right now. But even so, for a team not to have a catcher on a 40-man roster, like 2 or 3 days before spring training actually started, was unbelievable to me.
I mean, I don't understand what the complaint is. All right, so
the pitcher stands out in the mound, and he doesn't. The only guy between him and the backstop is the umpire. That's not a good situation.
As long as it hits him, the ball doesn't go anywhere. All right.
Well, they get a lot of hits. They don't need a catcher. Anyhow, thanks, Steve. Nice talking to you.
By the way, Little Caesars, by the way, is 4.5 years old. Opened in September of 2017, and. Just this conversation about the arena, for some odd reason, the suit would just got online and ordered a pizza. I don't understand. Is there any reason? Easily.
Fouled. That spells fouled.
Boy, that's a word that is spelled after every Shikellamy broadcast. All right, come back. Hey, come back with more after this.